mince up our adorable jalapeno here. You know, and also a fun fact, when you're dealing with chili peppers, they do carry very, very intense oil. So it's always good measure to wear gloves when you're cutting fresh peppers of any sort, because they can irritate your skin if you don't do that. However, my 10 years of blood, sweat, and tears in the kitchen, I don't feel anything anywhere anymore. Not here, you name it. It's a long story for another day. But in this case, we just want to add our minced jalapeno to our bowl. And next we're going to talk about acidity. This is a very, very layered, properly dish. We have the cool cucumber, sharp shallot, spicy pepper. Now we want to bring a little acid. And when we talk about acid, let's talk about our lime. Lime juice is great, but one thing I like to teach to everybody at home, and this is just a salmonism, not necessarily an America's Test Kitchen thing, is how to properly cut a lime to get maximum squeezability, which is a very scientific word that I'm still waiting to get approved by someone. But yes, many of us like to cut our limes such as this, but in this case we don't want to cut it in half. We want to cut it into thirds, because that center staff in the lime is what's preventing us from being able to squeeze. So I have this facing me with the butt end against me here, and now I'm taking my knife not directly in the center, but a little bit off the center. And so that's going to be our first cut. Now this piece here, I'm going to put this face side down, cut this directly in half. And like a head of cabbage or an apple, I'm going to cut out that little core, and you will see just how much lime juice you'll get out of just that single lime. And lime juice and lemon juice have a great way of pointing out any little nicks that you have in your hand, which is also a great thing as well. So be weary of that. So there we go. We're going to set this aside for 1 second. I do want to check on our salmon and see where we are temperature-wise. Oh, this looks beautiful. Look at how bright red and gorgeous this is. Wow. Alaska, I love you. This is great. So again, this is wild salmon, so I'm looking for that internal temperature of 120. And wow, we are right there. We are right at 118. And this is going to carry over cook just a tad here while we have this on the smoking hot sheet pan. So I'm going to let that sit. But one thing I want to point out to you visually, of course you can see that the salmon went from more of a translucent look to now more of an opaque look. But people like to talk about this yellow stuff, as we like to call it, yellow gunky stuff. And don't fear it. If there's any words of wisdom I have for you, it's to never fear your food, because your food senses your fear and it will fight back. So be confident in your kitchen, just fake it till you make it. That's how I've gotten this far in my life. But the albumin, it's just a soluble protein. It's perfectly safe to eat. If you don't like it, you can scrape it off with your offset spatula or wipe it with a towel, but know that it is very, in fact, safe to eat. So we're going to let that salmon sit there for just a second while we finish up our spicy cucumber. So let's review quickly. Cucumber, lime, jalapeno, shallot. Thank you. I was like, what's that other thing? Oh, the thing we're using all day, shallot. Now we want to add a little bit of freshness, a little bit of herbs. I love using fresh herbage in cooking. It is like the cherry on the cake. And in this case, we're going to focus on mint. Fresh mint, there's nothing like it. I know, it really is very refreshing. Think about that contrast of the fattiness of the fish, really refreshing it down, cooling it down. It's like a kind of a fire and ice effect that we're going for here with this cucumber relish. So I'm just going to pick these leaves off. And by the way, this is something that you can make a couple hours ahead of time if you wish, but please save the mint for last, because it's a very fragile herb. And over time it's going to oxidize, it's going to turn brown, and not be very pretty to look at. So save this for the last second. Now, my last ship, we were just in Cuba, so we're going to roll the leaves up like a cigar, and we're going to chiffonade this. Yes, excellent. So it's a very quick way to run your knife through it without, attacking it, because otherwise it's going to bruise. It didn't do anything to you, so don't harm it too much. And so what I'm going to do is just run my knife. I can smell it. As soon as my knife cuts into it, it just is delicious. Now, I would never, ever, ever partake in such wild and rampant behavior, but I've heard that mint goes well in, I don't even know how to say it, mojitos? Is that how you say it? Mojitos, right. I don't even know how to say it, because I've never even had one in my life before. The rum is delicious, by the way. Okay, so just gonna take my spoon and give this a bit of a toss. I am going to also add a little bit of salt. We don't need to add any pepper because we have the heat from the jalapeno. And the salt is not only going to awaken all these flavors, but it's going to help to draw out some of the moisture of the jalapeno, of the shallots, and of the cucumber so that they can get to know each other and make nice. So there we have our spicy cucumber relish. We're ready to plate, and this is what's super fun. We can now take this. You're probably wondering, for those of you who don't like salmon skin, this is a very, very simple and easy trick to do with your offset spatula. Once that comes out of the oven, you can very easily get your offset spatula between the flesh very easily. Try it on this one. Look at how super simple this is. This is a very finicky skin. But hey, there we go. Now we can see, it's a straggler, it wants to hang out. But as you can see, the salmon skin is still on the board, and it is also very easy to clean because we oiled that skin, so you don't have to worry about it sticking to your pan. Many people ask me if they can line it with foil or with parchment paper, but we really need it to cling so that the fat can render. And as you can see, there's a layer of fat, so that rendered beautifully on here. So we have our pan roasted salmon, our oven roasted salmon. Now we're going to garnish with this very refreshing cucumber salsa. There's a recipe card in your hands with a website on the bottom. And when you get safely home from your vacation, there are other added toppings that we've come up with on our website, americastestkitchen.com/onboard, if you're not interested in doing the cucumber relish. But I guarantee you this is such a flavorful and delicious way to cook salmon. So here we have our first recipe, our oven roasted salmon with our spicy cucumber relish. So thank you. All right, now let's go to the next recipe. Let's talk about poached salmon. Has anyone here ever poached salmon before?